she's a CISO at a small fintech company. And she's just minding her own business, going through her day, when all of a sudden she gets this Slack message asking her if she's approved this crypto wallet transaction. And right after that, she sees that it's already been approved. Now, she doesn't know what the hell is going on, but this is 2 years into the future, so she puts out her prompt, asking her AI assistant system to tell her what's going on. Surely she understands that the widget that does the Zoom recording shows her a perfect image, clone, whatever you want to call it, has actually made the call, and there's a transcript review, her voice, her tone. Everything is perfect. Perfect match. Looking at the transcript analysis, she sees that she actually approved this. And the tracing connections widget shows her that where her workstation was actually communicating with an AI agent outside of her organization. At this point, Maya realizes that there's evidence that shows her, but she knows she was never there. All right, so this is a scenario that I think if happens in one of our organizations tomorrow morning is not going to, none of us is going to fall off their seat and think that this is impossible. But let's look at it from the attacker's perspective. So the attackers are crafting a digital twin of Maya, uses publicly available information. I think that the interesting part about the publicly available information is that he has access to years and years of leaked data, open source data, and through continuous learning, this AI twin evolves post-compromise once they're in the once he's in the network. And if we look at this more from the kill chain perspective, so it obviously starts with the recon. And again, the recon stage is collecting data publicly available, then training the model to create a digital twin. The initial access is done using stolen credentials to infiltrate the company. AI is making a lot of improvement in the way we defend ourselves, but as we learn time and time again, in the world that we live in, most of the past capabilities come on top of new capabilities. So I don't think that info stealers as these are going to go away in the next few years. But once he's in the network, he's constantly perfecting by using emails, Slack messages, internal information, and then finally goes for the kill with the lateral movement, and the AI agent mimics perfectly what Maya would have done, and the money is out the door through a crypto capability. Now, you might think that we're being alarmists, maybe we're exaggerating the threat, but the reality is that we're barely scratching the surface when we look at this, right? These capabilities are already here. So this is not like a futuristic attack, but it's a different attack. And so it's not really a prediction. I mean, the building blocks are already there. This is one example that many of you might have seen. This is not a nation-state actor. This is somebody putting a clone to interview for him for a job. Now, if you look at it, it's not perfect yet, but it's getting there. And these things are becoming weaponized as we speak. When you think about phishing attacks through different media types, for text, I think they're already fully autonomous. When it comes to audio, almost perfect. I don't know if maybe if it's your spouse or your mother, she'll still recognize some differences, but it's almost perfect. And video is not there yet, but I don't know if it's going to be there in 2 months or in 2 years. But it's not. But it's getting there, and all this stuff is readily available. Voice calls, again, probably a little bit into the future. You can go on the dark web and browse decades of leaks in an eye blink. The cost of these services is quite low. And again, attackers are adapting and leveraging these kinds of capabilities as we speak. You know, for $50K, you get a lifetime capability to thrift through millions of emails once you enter a system. And this is changing the nature of AI attacks as we speak. To sum up, the attacks that we're seeing are becoming personalized, they're instantaneous, they're becoming autonomous, scalable by designs, and weaponized at scale as we speak. I think if you zoom out and you look at this from an attacker's perspective, there are two things that I think are fundamentally changing in this environment. The one thing that's changing fundamentally is that these AI malware weapons don't call home, or they don't have to call home. You know, this kind of attack, like the attack that we showed on Maya, is not something that we couldn't have done or attackers couldn't have done 10, 15 years ago. They could, but they had to have a vast amount of resources. They would put some kind of beachhead malware after they've had their original breach, and then send a lot of data home that would be analyzed, create another malware, go back. Could take couple of months, could take a couple of years, giving defense an opportunity to react, to see some anomaly, to understand some kind of command and control capability. But this is a different scenario, because once you're in, it's over, and it could be over in a couple of days with no intervention from some puppet master at the back end. And that's kind of scary. The other thing that's scary is that in this scenario, Maya could have had perfect hygiene, all of her ducks in a row, everything is working, you know, she hasn't made any mistakes in her security stack. But the mimicking of Maya and the constant learning of this autonomous AI system makes it, you know, it's her, it's perfect. So everything is working, and still we have a problem. And this is not a huge issue, right? This is a crypto stealing, you know, scenario. But obviously, you can imagine what happens in other scenarios. And what scares me a little bit around this is that because there's no human in the loop, there is no point where somebody can either press a kill switch or decide not to go to the next level. Once it's gone, and it's going to make autonomous decisions. So, this is not something which is, you know, out of our imagination. In fact, we are launching our inaugural AI security report that goes back into the Checkpoint research and looks at the latest and greatest. What are we seeing in the wild? What are we seeing from different research capabilities? You're welcome to download the QR code here and go into the report. I think it's an interesting report. It's the first report that we're doing that is specific on AI. And I think it's interesting to see the advancements of what we're seeing in different areas in the last couple of years. Now, you want to ask yourself, have we been here before? Because as Mark Twain said, you know, history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. So we want to look back at our history in cybersecurity and ask ourselves, have we been here before? Did we see this before? And the answer is probably yes. All right, when you think about cloud adoption, we rushed to adopt things, there was a security confusion, and eventually we're getting the hang of it, and I think we have great tools today and governance to adopt cloud. And the same thing is happening with AI, so we can see the parallels. Shadow tools, unclear responsibilities, insufficient training, missing frameworks, and the question is, can we do something not to go through the same mistakes that we've done in the past? And that's something that we're going to be focusing on today in the panel. And so what do we have to do in order to respond to all this? Well, first and foremost, and this is almost obvious, AI must defend as fast as it attacks. And systems must be AI native so that responses are as intelligent as the attacks. Right? And we're trying to do that. The second thing is it takes a village. And it takes a village in many, many aspects. We must be able to collaborate, to cooperate. One of the things that in the last couple of days we've been speaking about is this open platform approach, open garden approach of our hybrid mesh checkpoint infinity approach. And the essence of that is that we keep the eyes on the prize and remember that, you know, when you walk the streets and the floors here in San Francisco in RSA, you see a lot of competition. We need to remember that they're the competition. There are actually enemies out there that are trying to get us, so we need to learn to collaborate within our networks, outside of our networks, public, private, etc. And at the end of the day, the question is how can we become resilient to stuff that we don't even know where it's coming from? And I think as humans, we have a limitation of imagination to understand how AI is going to affect our lives, how it's going to affect cybersecurity. We have this really, really strong hunch that it's going to change everything, but we have no idea how it's going to do it. And so when we think about this resilience into an uncertain future, one of the things that we ask ourselves is, what's a good metaphor? What's a good analogy that we can think about as we prepare for that future? And for me, at least, you know, one of the ways to get inspired is to look at nature's blueprint for resilience. And it's all around the idea of complexity science. And complexity science can teach us many things, and nature can teach us many things. But in essence, what we're looking for are three different characteristics in networks that are resilient in this environment. Number one is you want distributed autonomous agents. You want to remove single points of failure with millions of micro decisions outmaneuver the sudden attacks. So that's one aspect of it. The other is fast feedback loops. So a singular but important events can be amplifier to get to the knowledge of the whole system and to do that very, very fast. And then finally, continuous learning and adaptation. And so it's not a perfect system, but I think it makes a lot of sense when we think about our networks, and again, trying to get inspired by beehives and ant colonies and fractal theory. But complex adaptive system, I think, are a pretty good idea of how to get the future resilient. And these systems are very, very good at navigating between order and chaos. They move comfortably on the spectrum between order and chaos, self-learning, autonomous, and this is kind of the inspiration that we took at Checkpoint when thinking about the hybrid mesh network. So the hybrid mesh network has AI agents that are able to talk to each other, but also have their own capabilities. And we look at the different solutions and products. On the one hand, we have a unified management that is sort of the brain, but each one of these fractals, each one of these nodes on its own has the capability to make instantaneous decisions with all the knowledge, intelligence, and capabilities of the whole system. And future ready in the sense that they can do it on the spot. Because there won't be time to start sending all the information to one centralized brain that will give the orders of what to do. That's the inspiration for us when we think about our Infinity platform and the hybrid mesh.